Good evening. My name is Stephen Leskin. I am a divorce attorney in Portland, Oregon. And once, twice a month, I host these webinars on topics of divorce for local people, for people in Oregon. Tonight's topic is finding a good divorce lawyer and a good mediator. Those are going to be two different people, and I'm going to go through some suggestions that I have for finding somebody. And I will cover how to find a good lawyer, how to find a good mediator, and also what to look for during the representation and how to deal with problems that may come up from time to time. A lot of this is going to be common sense. Some of it not. A lot of it will be common sense. As usual during my seminars, I don't like to take questions. It's just me here in the office tonight. And when I get questions, I get distracted and I lose my train of thought. And then I start talking about, my dog in third grade and, how we play outside. So if you don't text me unless you want to see, unless you want to confuse me. So I invite people who watch the webinars to give me a call. I'm happy to take the call. You can find me on my website. You can find my contact information on my website. It's www.leskinlaw.com, and be happy to take the call and respond. Then I've also found that when people ask questions, sometimes people get too specific, and I don't want to give legal advice in particular. So I just like to keep the conversations general. And by give me a call, we can have that more specific conversation. So a little background about me, just to kind of establish my credibility, as if I need to do that. I've been practicing law in Portland since 1992. I've been doing divorce law since 2001. I've been doing exclusively divorce law since around 2018, 2019. My practice is divorce, litigation, and mediation, even though I'm transitioning more towards mediation and building that side of my practice. But I'm happy to take litigated cases. Uh, so let's get into it. I just want to say one more thing. These are not, I really don't conceive of these as infomercials for me. I'm really trying to transmit information that will help the public in their divorce legal matters. I try not to talk about myself and my practice that often. Tonight I will be talking about myself and how I do things, and that way you can have an attorney's perspective as well. I have particularly with mediation, I have a very, very specific way that I do things, and I'll be talking about that just by way of contrast to other mediators, just to drive home a couple of different points. So let's start with my observation about lawyers. There are three types of lawyers. That's it, just three. Uh, you have sharks, you have social workers, and you have pragmatists. If you have two social workers on a case, they will talk each other to death until there's no money left. If you have two sharks on a case, they will litigate every issue until there's no money left. If you have two pragmatists, you're doing good. So, I what I mean by that is that there are people who do divorce law because they want to leave the world a better place, and they want everybody to, things to work out well, and that's all well and good. The sharks are, the type A, very aggressive lawyers, and sometimes that's absolutely called for, right? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes, you need to be practical, and the attorney needs to be practical and just get the thing done. Sometimes that's not what the client wants. Uh, and you got to follow what your client wants, but that may not be the best approach. And then a pragmatist is somebody who's like, let's look at it and get it done. Let's see where we're at, and um, let's see what we can do to move things along. Hopefully, at some point, as a lawyer, you're embracing and pulling tools from all three of those categories, right? It's a little bit of a caricature that, we're all like this or like that, but that insight will give you help in choosing a lawyer. And really, what you're looking for is the pragmatist. Some people may say, well, my spouse cheated, and I want to take that person, I want to take them for everything they've got. And there are attorneys out there who will do that, and you can certainly find them. Uh, um, but that's not what most people want. Most people want to be done with the process. They don't want to spend a ton of money. They don't want to give up a ton of money to lawyers. And you will get that mostly if you can find somebody who's being practical. All right. So I want to start in a weird place to help you find that type of attorney. And that weird place is talking about money. So, when you call up a new attorney, you just got handed divorce papers, or you're thinking about divorce, and you're talking to lawyers. Um, uh, some attorneys will charge you for a sit down, and they'll charge their usual hourly rate of 350 or 400 or $500 for the hour just to talk. That's fine if you want to pay that. There are attorneys who will like give you the consultation, the 20 minutes, a half hour at no cost. But what I want do you think about is like, how does that attorney talk to you about money? Right? You're going to be paying them money. How are they talking to you about that? So what I mean is that is the attorney being transparent with you, and is the attorney being truthful? There are attorneys out there who will hide the ball on how much it's going to cost because they know that if uh, they told you that your divorce is going to cost 20 or $25,000, you're going to choke and say, "Hell no," and I'm going to find somebody else. So some attorneys will hide the ball uh, and not disclose that. Um, but the point I want to drive home here is that while you're talking about money with the attorney, uh, are they disclosing to you? So you can't know, like as an attorney, I can't know how much the total divorce is going to cost. I don't know how aggressive the other side's going to be. I don't know how truthful the other side's going to be. I don't know if the other side is going to hide assets or liabilities. Uh, right. So it's impossible to say at the outset, like, it's going to cost this much. Um, but what I can tell people for sure is that I'm going to be working 3 to 5, maybe 6, 8 hours a month on your case, and I'm charging you $300 an hour. Can you do that math? Can you afford that math? And that's what it takes to be transparent, is to have that kind of conversation. It's legitimate to say I don't know how much it's going to cost, but you do know how much it's going to cost on a monthly basis. Most attorneys will ask for a retainer as a security deposit. I asked for $5,000. That's on the low side now. Most attorneys are asking for 10, especially if there's $10,000, especially if there's kids involved. So you're looking at a $10,000 retainer. If somebody calls me up and says, I can't afford $5,000, I know I'm not going to get paid, right? And I got to get paid. I don't work for free. I need to get paid. So if somebody's not willing or doesn't have the financial capacity to at least hit that minimal retainer, um, it's not going to work out as a relationship because I don't want to run up your bill and then have to go to court to get paid. So I require all my clients to pay me monthly when they get the invoice. If they can't do that, then I will refund them their trust money and um, say goodbye and good luck. But what I'm really, really driving at is that you can find an attorney that's most suitable to you by what the conversation about money looks like. What I mean is the attorney speaking in shark language, social work language, or pragmatist language? So, in other words, is the attorney saying, "Oh, I'm really sorry you're getting divorced. That's really horrible," and how the kid's taking it, and like trying to build a rapport, like through that kind of empathy? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, there's nothing wrong with empathy, but are they using that as a sales technique? Right? Are they trying to get your business by being empathetic? Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but that may not be the best attorney for you. That may not be what you need. The shark, on the other hand, will take the tact of, how do you know your spouse isn't cheating on you, right? How do you know you've got how do you know that they've disclosed all their assets? Like there's the manipulation there. And if you find somebody doing that, you want to run. Like that's like bad shark. There's good shark and bad shark. But if they're like playing those kind of emotional games to get your attention, you don't want that attorney representing you. And then thirdly would be um, the attorney who's like down to business, like let's get what I need to know, what I need to know, and this is where we go from here. And certainly there's some empathy there. I'm sorry you're getting divorced. I'm sorry, things are going south for you. Certainly, but it's not lending an ear. It's acknowledging somebody's pain and trauma at the moment. Uh, but you want to listen for how pragmatic is this person being? Like, are they talking to you about like where do I find information? What are your assets and liabilities? And helping them to get a sense of like this is what the case is. And so that will give you the sense of like what kind of attorney I'm working with. Listen to them. What category are they going in? And is that something that's good for me and my divorce and the lawsuit that's associated with that? So that would be observation number one. Observation number two is what kind of rapport are you establishing with the person in your first phone call or your second phone call with them? Are they receptive to you? Are they empathetic? Are they willing to take the time? Are they charging you for the time? Uh, those are things that will just tell you, can you work with this person? Do you try, is the attorney doing things to help you build trust with them? All important things. Um, the other couple of things I would mention about finding a good lawyer is talk to other lawyers. You talk to other divorce attorneys. Um, we know who's good in the community. We know who's trustworthy and who's not trustworthy. We may not say it like that, but I know that there are people I happily refer clients onto if I have a conflict. I trust them. I know that they do good work. I know that they don't take their clients for a ride financially. So talk to other lawyers to help get a sense of who's good in the community. Um, you want to look for a lawyer who's got at least 5 years experience. I went literally from law school, passing the bar, and the day I got sworn in as a lawyer, I opened my office. It was at like 3:30 in the afternoon on September 18th, 1992. I remember I get sworn in with my friend Jeff and driving to Hillsborough, and I already had my desk in the office, and again, I didn't have any files on my desk. The phone wasn't ringing, uh, but um, I wasn't a good attorney then. Like I just didn't know enough. I worked really hard for clients. Uh, I probably did really good work because I only had a couple of cases, and I'd overwork everything. So I don't think I was a bad attorney, but certainly there's something to be said for age and wisdom over youth and inexperience. Maybe not much, but there is that edge there, in my opinion, as an older person. I probably would have said something different when I was 30 and just opening my office. So you want to look for experience. Is the person committed to their practice area? Like, are they only practicing divorce law or whatever it is you're looking for? uh, or are they practicing in a myriad of areas? Most of my career until about 2018, when I started practicing family law exclusively, um, I practiced personal injury, Social Security disability, did some commercial litigation, and I think I did well. I mean, clients like me. I have, plenty of success. But I think that like once you get focused into one area and you are committed to that, your skills just improve because you're doing the same thing over and over again, and presumably you're always learning from that. Uh, the advantage of working in other areas, though, is that you really get a broader sense of like what the law is, right? And you develop different skill sets, and you like the skills you learn deposing somebody in a personal injury case, taking somebody's deposition in a personal injury case, um, are different from, are going to be transferable to your skills deposing somebody in a family law case. Um, like because I practice family law, like I have a little different, because I misspoke, because I practice personal injury law, I have a little different take on my family law cases, and that gives me an advantage over family law attorneys in some aspects. So you want to look for somebody who's, had a wide range of experience, but is like really focused and committed to that practice area. If you like look on a law website and it says I practice in commercial litigation, I practice family law, I practice personal injury. Um, you want to make sure that they are like competent in family law and that that is what they are doing. Um, I would probably, if I was looking for a divorce attorney, I'd probably look for somebody who's only doing divorce law. Uh, it's confusing. There is a ton to know, and it really does take years to um, really integrate it into your thinking and to understand how all the pieces fit together. So that's just something else you want to look for is just experience, and you'll find that by talking to other attorneys. Um, People often call me and say, "Well, what's your win rate? How often do you win?" And in family law in particular, since the statute requires um, uh, a just and proper resolution in all the circumstances for division of property, the court's going to lean towards um, like splitting things down the middle, right? So it may take some effort to get there, and there's some avenues and escape doors from that. Sometimes that would be too burdensome, uh, but there are definitely um, so. Um, you're never in divorce. You're really going to hit a home run. You're just not. It's happened to me a couple times where I have hit it out of the park, but it really does not happen too often. I think the judges are so accustomed to um, finding the middle ground that they just don't think about like even if the evidence says um, you know spouse should get wife should get everything for valid reasons, and they're rarely going to do that. They're going to look for that middle ground because that's the way the statute dictates. And just and proper usually means equitable, which usually is translated as evenly. Again, there's ways around that, and that's what the attorney is there for. Um, but um, asking what your win rate is in a family law situation, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Um, because it's not there. And um, sometimes you get a terrible settlement, but it's like what's best for the client. You know, sometimes like that might sound a little bit strange, but sometimes it's better for somebody to cut their losses than to continue dragging on. And there's costs, emotional costs, relationship costs with continuing litigation. And so um, you may as an attorney see like, I genuinely think that what's in this person's best interest is maybe not the best settlement, but it is a settlement and that has value. And of course, it's the client's call, but sometimes that's what you want the client to do. So those are some recommendations for um, finding a good lawyer. Top of the list is talking to other lawyers. If you have lawyers in your social circle, ask them. Um, talk to them, get a feel for them. Listen to what approach they're using to uh, sell you as a client. That makes a lot of difference as well. Remember my basic kind of schematic for it's not really a schematic. My whatever, I can't think of the word. My observations about three different attorney types. Think about what's best for you in your circumstances. At the outset, I said I would also talk about what happens if you hire somebody and you're not getting along with them or you don't feel that they're living up to the task. I want to tell a story to illustrate this. I knew a woman socially who, I say that to differentiate from professionally, not commenting on the social relationship. Uh, and she was in the middle of a divorce and she came to me and she already had a lawyer. And I did not like what the lawyer was doing. And I kept my mouth shut. And eventually she started asking me like really pointed questions like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And I'm like, I'm not taking your case. I don't want to take your case. Um, but I'm not crazy about what the lawyer's doing. And she spent maybe $1,000, maybe more, like interviewing other lawyers. And they would not call her back. Like they would meet with her, then not call her back. Um, they would give her what I thought was like terrible advice. And by that I mean like they would just like substitute their judgment for hers, right? Or they would like um sometimes the advice should be we need more information before I say anything, and they just say something. And it's like it's not the way it should work. You should, get the evidence in front of you and then judge. And I watched this person go through months of aggravation and grief trying to find a substitute lawyer for somebody she wasn't crazy about, and ultimately, just out of like frustration and getting worn down with the process of finding a new lawyer, stayed with the current lawyer. Um, so, um, if you find that you're in a relationship with somebody that you don't think it's working out for them, call the lawyer, make an appointment, and sit down and reasonably adult-like express why you're having a problem. I I don't mind that at all because sometimes we don't realize that we're not giving somebody our best service or best attention, and I kind of appreciate the feedback as long as it's done respectfully. If somebody calls me, I'm a terrible lawyer. That's one thing. Somebody says, I had this conflict over invoice last week, and client was like, you drafted something, but you didn't end up filing it in the court, and I'm getting charged for that, and it didn't do me any good. Like, you're right. I'm happy to refund or discount your bill, whatever it was, to make it right. I want to give good service. I want people to recommend me, and I want the satisfaction of knowing that I did my best for them, and I want them to end our professional relationship on a good note. And I can only do that if like people are giving me feedback that I can act on and correct. So um, I'm not saying every lawyer is like that. A lot of lawyers aren't. But if you can like have the discussion in a mature adult way, the attorney should respond in the same way, and hopefully you can get back on track that way. Um, if I hear people say, I've heard this a number of times over the years, my lawyer is not calling me back. What do I do? Um, so you have to first ask yourself, what are you prepared to do? Are you prepared to look for another lawyer, pay the expense of that lawyer coming up to speed? Uh, um, are you, if you can't get resolution, are you like gonna switch lawyers? So kind of like know in your mind like what your options are and like where you want to go. But I would, if like somebody's just not returning a call, I would send them an email saying, the last time we spoke was on such and such date, and I tried to call you, and I tried to call you, and I tried to call you. I'm not getting a response. I'm not happy with the way this is progressing because X, Y, and Z. And if you don't get a response, then you know what you got to do. Look for another lawyer or resign yourself to the terrible representation you're getting, and live with the consequences. So um, my recommendation, if you're not happy with your lawyer, uh, and with their performance for you, with their communication with you, with their billing, is mature, non-threatening communication, which is true in most things in life, and it will certainly be true in your relationship with your attorney. Most attorneys I deal with, people I'm friends with, professional colleagues, I think would welcome um, the mid-course correction. I don't think most of us would object to that, but we got to know it, and um, there's um, no harm if you no foul if you don't try, right? You're not going to see a result if you don't try. So if you get into a relationship with somebody who's not working out, try to make the correction. If it doesn't, then you got to make the hard choice of do you stay or do you go? So that's my suggestion for finding a lawyer and what to do if things aren't working out, which, sometimes happens. Sometimes, they're just personality conflicts. People sometimes just don't get along. It's an intense relationship, and maybe you're just not clicking. It happens. So those are some of the things that I suggest to you know, get the relationship back on keel. If you do choose to send an email, make sure you're documenting it, make sure it's respectful and not threatening. Um, and just, I'm having a problem. This is where my problems are. I've tried to do that, stay factual. And the response will tell you what you need to know. If you don't get a response, that tells you something also. All right, time for part dos, finding a mediator. Okay, so if you and your spouse have elected to mediate your divorce, and by mediating it, I mean that you're going to hire a private mediator who's going to help you get a resolution and is going to go back and forth between the two of you as an impartial and neutral um, professional to help you both achieve a positive outcome. That's mediation. If you've elected to do that and not go the litigation route where you've each hired your own lawyer, but where you've decided to mediate, uh, you both have to agree on the mediator. And so, watching the mediator work with the two people as part of the onboarding process or selecting a mediator process, um, that will tell you what kind of mediation service you will get at the mediation. Is the mediator being fair? Is he offering equal time to both parties? Is he saying things to you that they wouldn't say to the other party? Does the mediator appear to be advocating? Sometimes I think the dynamic is, for example, husband finds mediator, and wife says, "Well, how do I know the mediator's fair?" Um, uh, because husband found him and husband doesn't treat me right and I don't trust. What is the mediator willing to do to earn your trust? Right? Is he going to spend time with you on the phone? Is he going to talk, explain how things work? Is he going to explain, um, what the mediator's process or framework is? So the question is, um, what are you observing about how the mediator works with the two of you at the outset, right? So if you're getting the feeling that like one party's getting more information or different information, then you probably don't want to go with that person. Uh, on the other hand, the uh, the mediator says, the only way I'll meet with you both is if we all the three of us meet together, that's a good sign, right? That way there's complete transparency. Uh, my approach is I will talk to the person who calls to make sure that mediation is actually appropriate in the circumstances. And I will give information about my process and pricing. And then uh, I will want to have another conversation with the spouse or a conference call with the three of us so that everybody is on the same page and has the same information. Another thing that's really important about finding a mediator is, in my opinion, is um, is a mediator a divorce attorney? There's a lot of clergy who do mediation. There's a lot of therapists who do mediation, but divorce is a legal process. And what you don't want, what you absolutely do not want, is a clergy person, for example, who will write up something that looks like an agreement and it sounds like an agreement. And they'll say, I have a friend who's a paralegal who will write up the agreement for you so it's legal. You just don't want that. The paralegal will write up, will either add stuff that wasn't agreed to, or um, will not get it right because the non attorney didn't know like all the requirements of the law and how to get it in a form that the court will approve, and which will resolve conflict now and in the future. The judgment's got to be drafted in a way that allows for conflict and anticipates conflict and also anticipates growth and future change, particularly if the kid's involved. So you want to hire a lawyer who has that background and that knowledge, and you're not going to find that. I shouldn't be categorical. You're not likely to find that with a clergy person or a therapist. So my strong recommendation is to find somebody who does uh, who has experience as a family law attorney. You want to know what their approach is. There are different types of mediation. There's transformative mediation and other kinds of mediation um, uh, approaches. My approach is different from anybody else. I developed my own approach to mediation, and my approach. So in transformative mediation, uh, you want to have the mediator wants to have a breakthrough, and that the parties can come to some intellectual understanding about where they're at, or not even an intellectual understanding, but an emotional uh, understanding. And the mediator will let people yell at each other and scream and get it all out because it's a safe place. I don't, not my thing, and I don't think it's really productive. Uh, so. Um, and I think it can be, manipulative and overbearing and not fair to the weaker party. So my approach to mediation is I get I first go through a fact, and so like listen to my approach and ask mediators, what's your approach? What do you do? Like how do you get to the finish line? And so like what I do is I spend the first part of the our time together gathering information and working with the parties to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of like what the assets are, what the liabilities are, uh, and if there's differences, that's fine. You can always document the value of things. If there's dispute over, the value of a bank account, that's easy to resolve. Just produce a bank statement, right? That's all it is. And so, I'll make sure that we're all on the same page. And then I will explain in detail and in depth all of Oregon law pertaining to the issues that are raised in the divorce. And that creates guidelines and guardrails for people so that they know that the outcome that they're going to get is similar to um, what they got had they gone to court. And also, people just don't know how to think about these issues, right? And the law gives um, guidance on that, and it's time-tested guidance, and it's the wisdom of hundreds of years of judicial thinking and listening to people and like trying to figure out what's right and wrong. And judges don't always get it right, of course, but the law reflects that. The law does reflect that collective wisdom, and by collective I mean over time too, not just everybody at the same time, but years and years of decision making on these issues. And so I like to explain that to people so that they have some guideline for making their decisions. Most attorneys don't do that. In fact, I'm the only one who I've ever heard talk about doing it. I've never heard uh, people say that the attorney explained the law to them. But to me, that's like a key component of what I do as a mediator, is getting people on the same page about what the facts are and what the law is. And then as a result of that, I found that many of my clients have resolved their case even before the mediation. So, my process works. So you want to talk to a mediator about like, what's your process? How do you go about things? And listen to what they're saying. Is it coherent? Is it, there should be a fact-finding session first. So you're not going to the mediation and um, oh, I didn't think to bring my bank statements. All of that should be resolved. You shouldn't be arguing over facts before you get to the mediation. The facts should be established before the mediation, in my view. And then we do the mediation. And you want to know, is it live? Is it on Zoom? I'm doing all mine on Zoom now. People seem to really like doing the mediations from their home. Um, um, uh, is it together, or is the mediator, if it's live, are both the parties in the same room with the mediator, or is the mediator going to shuffle back and forth? Um, Even if the mediator says that, no, it's live, we're all going to be in the same room, um, the mediator needs to guard against um, abusive conduct or overpowering conduct or conduct that's manipulative. And you can only really, in my view, you can only really do that if you can put somebody in a breakout room once you sense that's starting to happen. And that allows the mediator, excuse me, to weed that out and just bring the other spouse, this is the proposal. right? And all we're going to do is talk about the proposal. We're not going to get into the garbage, the emotional garbage behind it. So you want to talk to the mediator about what their approach is. Um, um, there are, I talked about several different approaches to mediation. There's also something called collaborative law, and there are a lot of attorneys who practice collaborative law, and it sounds good. I have a close friend in Portland who is a collaborative attorney, um, and we've talked about this. I don't like collaborative law. Collaborative law says that you're going to hire a lawyer, and I'm going to hire a lawyer, and if we can't get a resolution, both the lawyers have agreed that they'll quit, and we'll start the process over again, and then go to court. Uh, to me, using that financial um, boom of having to start over if you don't agree gives one party or the other an undue advantage, and people will, um, make concessions based on fatigue or financial lack of financial resources, and that just to me doesn't seem very fair. In my practice, um, uh, it's a more even playing field because, like my practice is like we will mediate for one day. At the end of the day, if you're not done, um, I make the decisions for you. So it's a hybrid process. Again, I think I'm the only one in Oregon who does this, but that does level the playing field. I'm going to make a decision the same as if you'd gone before a judge, or pretty close to it, and um, that doesn't give either party, if you don't agree, you don't agree. I'll make the decisions. So that that approach, and that actually has really happened to me, where I've had to make decisions for parties that can't decide. It's happened once where the one of the spouses, I don't want to over-identify, one of the spouses just shut down in mediation. I was like, I'm not having it. This isn't fair. This is not going to work for me. And it's like, okay, well, then fine. I'll make decisions the best I can. Um, or it's happened on like really, really like we can't decide on this issue. So um, those are the kind of the questions that you want to ask, like what approaches. There are uh, a couple different ways mediators charge. Some charge like flat fee for the day of mediation and then charge to put all the documents together. Some will charge for the mediation service, and you have to go out and find the paralegal to put the documents together, and that's going to be a separate charge. Um, since I, an attorney who's been dealing with courts and court paperwork for 30 years, I put the documents together for people. That's part of what you're paying me for. And then I do everything on a flat fee, so people will know exactly how much it will cost. That's payable up front. But that's my way of being completely transparent with people that you know how much it's going to cost. I tell you, uh, um, like there may be like a couple of extra costs, but those are always, up front. You know what they're going to be. Uh, so you want to talk about like who's going to do the paperwork, how much is that going to cost, the separate costs, who's going to pay the court filing fees, who's going to pay for drafting a separate court order to divide retirement plans. Uh, so those are some of the things to think about when hiring a mediator. So that's about it. That's what I've got. So we covered picking a lawyer, different types of lawyers, how to listen to how the lawyer is talking to you, and what that tells you about what kind of person, what kind of lawyer they're going to be. Not what kind of person, but what kind of lawyer they're going to be. We talked about what to do if the relationship doesn't work out. And then finally, we talked about picking a good mediator and finding somebody that's appropriate for you, whether it's clergy or therapist or actually hiring a lawyer, and some of the pitfalls about hiring a non-lawyer to pull everything together in terms of the court paperwork. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Please look at the website. You'll find additional seminars going into next year. Um, I think that the schedule kind of gets light in November. I don't do any in December, but we'll be picking it up again at the first of the year. So thank you for joining me. You've been a wonderful audience, and I appreciate all the great questions, of which there were none. And stay tuned. Thanks.